Hi, my name's Caroline. I am a counsellor, a Humanistic Integrative Counsellor, and this is step 5 in my series on how to recover from heartbreak. So step 5, according to the Kubler Ross model of loss or change or bereavement, and in this case I'm using this model to look at recovering from heartbreak in a romantic relationship specifically, but this also applies to any relationship, any life change. But the examples I'm going to give will be specifically around romantic relationships. So in our 5th stage, we are moving out of depression, which was stage 4, step 4. And as I've said in all my other videos, so just to reiterate that these stages are not linear. So I've just got to clean my glasses. These stages are not linear. So you can dip in and out of all the stages, and various things will happen probably on your journey where you feel as though you are taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So yeah, just to remind yourself, to remind you to be gentle with yourself. You know, these are huge changes that you're going through, emotional changes, and that can have a massive impact on you, on your well-being, on your physical health as well. There's a strong possibility there'll be financial impacts in your life, and maybe sort of very practical changes. You may have had to move house, you may have lost sort of extended family and friends. It's not just about the loss of your relationship. So yeah, just to remind you to be gentle with yourself if you can. So with the acceptance stage, there's starting to be a sense of, you know, you may not be happy that the relationship has broken up, but you are starting to move into a space whereby you feel a little bit less hopeless. You may not, like I say, you may not be okay. You know, may not have wanted the relationship to end, or even if you did want the relationship to end, it may not have been because that would have been your choice. You may have felt compelled to end a dysfunctional relationship. So this stage isn't a stage of sort of, you know, feeling overjoyed and, you know, wanting to go out and party every night, although you know, you may want to do that, but it's not necessarily a place of sort of total contentment and joy. It's a place of you are feeling like you're moving out of the depression. Life doesn't feel quite so bleak, quite so dark. And this is about starting to ground yourself more in the present rather than either living in the past or focusing on what could have been. So we have a tendency, I mean, we have a tendency to do this anyway as humans. You know, a tendency to either be reminiscing about the past or hoping and wishing for, you know, amazing things in the future. We spend very little time in the present. But when we're in this stage of acceptance, we're starting to inhabit the present a bit more. We're starting to, it's kind of filtering through that actually this is my new reality. And you're starting to adapt to new circumstances. you know, if you've had to move, you know, perhaps you're starting to feel more settled, but emotionally you're starting to accept the reality that your relationship is over. You may have stopped sort of trying to reach out to your ex, or you know, you may have stopped doing the social media stalking or lurking, shall we say. You may have stopped sort of trying to find out information about their new life. I mean, all of those processes are really, really natural things to do. But you might find, so a friend of mine, her old Spotify account was still linked with her ex's, and she would very much be checking in on the shared Spotify account to see what new music her ex was adding onto the account, and trying to read into the songs that were being added to try to understand whether her ex was in a new relationship or feeling, you know, what was their state of mind, were they happy, sad, you know. And again, completely normal, natural part of the process of letting go. You know, we if we're in a stable, attached relationship, that's just not going to disappear overnight. But you may be sort of starting to be less interested in that sort of thing. You might find yourself sort of slipping back, but generally you're spending more time perhaps focusing on what you're doing. So some of the signs and symptoms that you are now moving into this acceptance phase is that you're starting to show yourself more compassion. You are focusing more on self-care. You may be starting to plan for the future. You might be you know, considering perhaps taking up a new hobby. You may be exploring what you are like as a person now that you're not in a relationship, because especially in long-term relationships, we can end up sort of merging with the other person. That can be what, you know, not always, you know, some people live very, very separate lives. But one symptom of a very dysfunctional relationship can be that, you know, you lose your own friendships, or you lose your own interests, your own hobbies. You can spend too much of your time, or a disproportionate amount of your time supporting your partner, or doing the things that your partner likes doing at a cost of not developing your own friends, your own hobbies. And so starting a single life can be very challenging for lots of reasons, but one of those reasons could be that, you know, you're so used to supporting your other person, your ex, in their lives. All of a sudden you may find yourself with all this spare time, and that can be really challenging to sort of try to understand, what do I actually like to do, and that can be quite a conflicting feeling around, well, I don't really, you know, perhaps I don't really know myself anymore. Perhaps I used to do all these things, but that was just because they like to do them. So you might be starting to explore, so what do I like to do actually? What food do I like to eat? What clothes do I want to wear? Especially if you've been in a particularly controlling relationship in the past, you might find that very hard to be in a space of not being controlled by the other person, whether that's overtly being told you can or can't do various things, or it might be you may have received covert messages from them that, so overtly they might be saying, oh yes, you know, wear what you like, but then if you're wearing something that your partner doesn't really like, you know, you may notice sort of little digs or sort of comments, or maybe yeah, sort of, I don't know, if you're going out shopping, they might encourage you to buy certain clothes, rather than you exploring what you like to wear. And that's perhaps, you know, a silly example, but it eventually over time this can really erode your self-identity. And then when the relationship ends, that can be one of the longest parts of the journey, is actually starting to discover yourself. You know, you may never have, you know, this may not be a rediscovery. This may be a discovery for the first time of, what do I like? Who do I want to spend time with? You know, what dog would I like to get? You know, maybe I don't. You know, maybe I don't like cats. Maybe I've always had to have cats, and I don't want a cat. So yes, so this is a time of starting to sort of dip your toe into your new life, however that looks like to you. So the denial of the first stage has pretty much gone now. And when you reach this stage, it's not likely that you're ever going to be able to slip back into that denial phase. So the shock and denial has passed. The anger will have mostly subsided, although that may, you know, that can keep popping back up for you know, a long old time. The bargaining may still be making reappearance, especially if there are still loose ends around. If you've got legal matters, that might, you know, the bargaining might still pop in and out, but it will feel less painful for you. You may feel more able to tolerate the bargaining side of things. And the fear of the future, you know, that may still be there, but it may feel less intense. And depression again, you know, may come and go. You know, depression can be a feature of any part of our lives. But as we're moving gradually along this process, you know, into acceptance, we're starting to release our anger, we're starting to release our fear and our sadness for what's happened in the past, and around what might have happened in the future. So we might be feeling a bit more sociable, we might be starting to book things up, we might be deciding to give ourselves a bit of a glow up if we perhaps weren't making the best of ourselves in the past. On an emotional level, we may be able to tolerate dips, you know, the highs and lows of life, whereas perhaps when you were in the angry state, the bargaining stage and depression stage, you may have found it really almost intolerable to get through life's little ups and downs. So, you know, I don't know, something like a parking ticket may have felt like a real sort of catastrophe, and you that may have just been like that much too much for you to be able to sort of cope, because your emotions are up to here already, or, you know, your sadness, your anger, your fear are up to here already. then anything more is just going to sort of tip you over the edge, and it may just feel really overwhelming. As we're leaving the depression stage into the acceptance stage, we will find ourselves being more able to tolerate life's smaller knocks. So you know, hopefully you'll be feeling, you know, hopefully that, you know, if you found yourself crying a lot, hopefully, you know, you may find yourself sort of not crying quite so much, or you might find yourself crying but at very appropriate moments, whereas sometimes with depression we can find ourselves crying for what appears to be no reason whatsoever. Whereas as we're moving into acceptance, you know, yes, we may still, of course, we're still going to be sad about what's happened in the past, or loss of what might have happened in the future, but the tears are proportionate to what's happened, and they are appropriate to whatever it is we're thinking, or if we have, you know, if reminders pop up on the TV, for example, or if there's an anniversary of something that would have been very poignant within your relationship, that can be really tough. I'll talk about that a bit in a moment. And then another aspect of the acceptance phase is you will hopefully be starting to, so when we're in the first 4 stages, we, not all of us, and not all of us all the time, but there will most likely be a heavy emphasis on what the other person did, and there will be heavy emphasis on perhaps blaming the other person, or sort of feeling victimized by whatever the other person did. And you know, that's absolutely right, particularly if you have been in an abusive relationship, or in a, you know, coercively controlling relationship, or narcissistic relationship, if the other person has betrayed you in any way. And when I say abusive, I mean, there's, you know, financial, sexual, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, the list goes on and on of the different ways in which we, sadly, in romantic relationships, we can be abused or controlled or neglected, just as bad, if not worse, being neglected, being gaslit, and that through that entire range of dysfunctional, unhealthy, toxic relationship dynamics. You know, most likely there is one person who is the target or the victim of the abusive behaviour, and the other person is the perpetrator. However, as we move through our different stages, we might come to the acceptance stage with some ability to be able to take responsibility for the things within the relationship that we should be taking responsibility for. And I am in no way victim blaming whatsoever. I have been in various situations whereby I was victimized myself. However, coming out of those relationships, I have been able to, and in order to get to this stage, I have had to very much dismantle the behaviour of the other person and really break it down in order to understand, you know, what has happened within that relationship. And as part of that process, I have been able to apportion blame where blame fairly and squarely rests. But also within that, there have been elements in which I have had to look in the mirror at myself and decide. Really, it's more about making decisions going forward. It's not about blaming myself. But it's about me being able to take responsibility for, you know, the times in which I could have walked away. I could have been more honest. I could have spoken my truth. I could have protected myself more. I could have protected my, you know, financial situation more. There was a lot more I could have done. Now, in that moment, I wasn't able to, or I didn't, for whatever reason. But as part of my recovery through these breakups, I am now able to look back and think, do you know what? I could have done things differently. And that's not to say that that's necessarily my fault. However, going forward, this is really valuable information for me. You know, how did I manage to get into a relationship with someone who was so obviously showing signs that they would be abusive? How did that happen? How was I so blindsided? Where are my weak spots? I don't really like the word weak. Where are my blind spots? Where are my gaps in my own self-development that I allowed myself to stay within that relationship or those relationships for as long as I did? You know, what stopped me from leaving? Again, you know, these thoughts are not ones that are going to probably help you when you're in your first 4 steps, because you have got way too much going on just getting through day-to-day life. As we move into acceptance, and then as we move into integration more, that's when we can really start to dig a bit deeper. And in an ideal world, that would be done with a therapist. But if not, you know, you can do so much work on your own, journaling, or with good close friends. So we'll probably be exploring that more in the integration stage, but just to say that this is where awareness might start to float up for you. Just in terms of things to watch out for within this phase, I mean within all of the phases, but as time ticks on more and more, you are more likely to be hitting those big anniversaries whereby perhaps you would have celebrated with your ex. So your birthday, their birthday, your kid's birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, you know, any of the big holidays, Christmas, Easter, bank holidays, the times in the year when you might have taken a holiday together. If you for example, graduate, or if your child graduates or moves school, or Valentine's Day, oh my goodness, Valentine's Day. What would have been your anniversaries? There's so many days in the year that can become real triggers for feeling as though you've been kicked right back down into denial, anger, depression. And so just as a bit of a tip, if you can try to preempt those days, obviously you're not always going to be able to preempt them. If something out of your control happens, for example, you know, pets dying in particular can be very tough, or you know, anyone dying, or sort of tricky times can be really, really tough. But things that you know are coming up, rather than being in denial about them, or being trying to be really strong, my tip would be think about them. And if you would like to, and if you have the opportunity to, make a plan. That whether that plan is just, you know, I'm going to put on the box set of Married at First Sight, or what's something that's not romantic, I don't know, Better Call Saul, and I'm going to, you know, buy myself a box of chocolates, I'm going to have a bath, I'm going to treat myself to that book I've been wanting to buy, you know, something that not only is going to give you a sense of maybe not joy, but at least something that, you know, will make you feel as though you are valuing yourself. And apart from anything else, what we're then giving our subconscious, our nervous system, we're giving that message, that reinforcement that this other person may not have valued me enough to want to sustain this relationship, but I value myself. And the more we can do, the more we can give us our subconscious those messages, not just through words, through actions. Really important to be doing the actions to show ourselves that we care about us. That's when we will start to accelerate our recovery. And so, I mean, one Valentine's Day, I went with a group of trusted friends, and we went to watch a talk over in Brighton for the evening, and that was absolutely exactly what I needed. I wanted to not be dwelling on the fact that this was Valentine's Day and what might I've been doing, you know, X number of years ago. It was an interesting talk, so I learned stuff, and I was connecting with people that I really care about and who care about me. So yeah, just to really emphasize that point, try and plan something nice for you for those days that you know are going to be, you know, coming up. Then really just a couple of other points before I finish. Just again, as these stages are progressing, there's going to be more ripples. There's going to be sort of, you know, wider and wider ripples. You know, you're starting to come out of the hardest hitting parts. And so mostly, you know, as a rule of thumb, the other ripples won't be as tough, but they're still not fun. And you might feel like, oh, I'm back to where I started again, but you're not. You're not. So things like you know, people I know have gone on dating apps and then stumbled across the profile of their ex on the dating apps, which has brought up a very confusing mix of feelings. Even if you hear sort of secondhand that you know your ex might have a partner, or if you see photos on social media of them with their new partner, especially, you know, the ones where they're, you know, having an amazing holiday, and whilst you're, you know, on the train to work, you know, trying to figure out whether you've got enough money to pay your gas bill. You know, things like that are going to be tough, and to just really give yourself that grace and that self-compassion to accept that that's a really shitty thing to see. It's hard. It's really hard, especially if, you know, if they're jet setting off to, I don't know, the Maldives at a time of year when you would have been doing the same, or, you know, especially things like at Christmas, you know, they're all happy families, and maybe, you know, you're on your own, or that would have been you in the photo. You know, these are really tough moments, and it can be quite hard to convey that to friends, especially friends who are very happily married or who haven't been through a similar experience. So yeah, I just want to really acknowledge that for you, and say, you know what, I hear you. I've been there. I've done that. I've got the t-shirts, multiple t-shirts, and to just, yeah, you know, I really hope that you have people you can talk to at times like that. I really hope that you, yeah, that you have understanding in your life from others, because that is really important. And things like that can really knock you back. But as I said before, that it won't knock you as far back as you think it will. You will bounce back, as long as you are doing all of the things that you need to do to support yourself. And if you know, if you don't have trusted friends, please reach out to people like the Samaritans, or please, you know, book in with a therapist. Really important that you get the support to move through this process. There's a nice little ritual. Oh, before I mention, I'll leave the ritual bit to the end, but if you are able to, this is obviously not easy to do, if you have shared custody of children, for example, or if you're still going through legal stuff, or, you know, if you still want to be in contact with your ex. But if none of those things apply, please do at least consider blocking them on social media, or at least muting. I think there's a way you can still be friends, but you don't have to see their holiday photos. Please consider it at least. And, you know, if you're friends with their friends and family, again, you know, just be really kind to yourself. And again, the more you do things like that, the more you're giving your subconscious messages that, you know what, I'm here for you, I'm taking care of you, I'm going to protect you. Because nothing good comes out of opening up social media and seeing photos. Whether they are actually happy or not is irrelevant. They're probably not. Because we only ever post on social media when, you know, things that at least look fabulous. But yeah, nothing good is going to come out of you going on social media and being confronted by those sorts of images. So, you know, if you can preempt having to see stuff like that, please do, or at least consider it. And you know, maybe, you know, in 6 months' time you will feel able to see stuff like that. But just be really kind to yourself if you can. If you are in the process of disentangling yourself from a narcissistically abusive relationship, There's lots of videos out there about grey rock, the grey rock technique. I mean, it doesn't even really need a whole video. It's basically just keep your communication with them to an absolute minimum. If they're messaging you using 3 sentences, you respond with only 1 sentence. Just keep yourself as uninteresting as you possibly can in order to minimize the possibility that they might try to hook you back into their life. I think the acronym for it is BFF. So keep your contact brief, friendly and firm. If you want me to, I can do some videos around that, communicating with ex-partners. You know, I haven't, these series of videos isn't just about breaking up from narcissistic partners, so I don't want to spend too much time just on that, but be aware that if your partner is within the narcissistic spectrum, there is a chance that once you start to move into this phase, so you're starting to feel a bit more hopeful for the future, they have an uncanny knack of sniffing that out and then trying to get back in touch and hook you back in. So just when you're starting to feel like you're getting back on your feet, I don't know how they do it, but they just have their ways of noticing that you're in a much better place and therefore might be in the headspace to give them some attention. So yeah, please just have your spidey senses out for that. And my final sort of tip is a really lovely ritual that you can do. I mean, it's summertime in inverted commas here in the UK at the moment, so you know, slightly better weather. She says pulling her cardigan around her, it's freezing here. So this ritual, I love this ritual. It's just about releasing any residual sadness, fear, anger, and so the idea is to get a bit of paper, cut it up into lots of small slips of paper, and on each slip write down something that you would like to release from your life, whether that's your person's name, whether it's you know, the anger that you feel towards them, the fear you have for the future, the sadness. It can include, I don't know, if they were unfaithful, it might include that other person's name or any of your feelings towards that other person. It might include, you know, divorce proceedings. It may include, you know, how the specific instances when they treated you really badly. Just anything that pops up for you that you want to release from your life. You just want it out of your head, out of your environment, just releasing. And then outside or somewhere safe, ideally get a candle, get like I use a terracotta plant pot, and take each piece of paper and burn it in the candle and drop it into the terracotta pot, and yeah, just watch that go up in flames. And yeah, it can give a real sense of release. I mean, the reason why, you know, one of the reasons why we have funerals is to create a ritual to say goodbye. Why wouldn't we create rituals to say goodbye to relationships? So yeah, I think that's everything. Hopefully I covered most points around acceptance, and I hope this has been helpful. or interesting. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, if you've done any rituals that have been really helpful for you, if you've got any tips you'd like to share with others, that'd be lovely. If you could pop them in the comments below, I'd really appreciate that. If you would like to like this video, I'd appreciate that as well. But if not, I will see you in the final stage. So that will be step 6, integration and making meaning. So thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Take care. Bye.